Hello there. Welcome back to the Chap's Guide. My name is Ash and I am your host on this journey through men's style, self-development and personal grooming. Now welcome back to another of my Back to Basics video series in which I talk about a topic which can improve the quality and the direction of your life in some way. And today, well, it's a real life situation because I found myself living this experience, this thing that I'm going to share with you today, and that is how to be a good mentor. This happened recently because I received an unexpected email from a viewer who wrote to me and said, I would love you to be a mentor for a situation that I'm facing in life. Now, I was a bit uncertain. I've never had emails which are so blunt before, but this young gentleman explained to me that he was facing some life challenges. He was at a very pivotal point in his life and he had to make some decisions, and he didn't have many people that he could go to that he knew would be able to offer the advice which would help him make the decisions that he needed to make. Now, it's quite a responsibility to be asked to mentor somebody. You can call it mentoring, you can call it life coaching. There's any number of newfangled names people will call these things, normally when they're trying to make money out of it. But when it's just a simple situation like this, I like to just refer to it as mentoring. Somebody was looking for advice to tap into knowledge and skills that I possessed to help them on their life journey. Now that is truly what being a chap is all about, so I was all ears. But then I became quite introspective for a little while because I thought to myself, what qualifies me to be a mentor for anybody? You know, what have I got? Why would somebody ask me for advice? But then, of course, I looked into myself and I realized, you know, I'm 53. I've got a couple of careers behind me. And in those careers, my professional life, I've been a mentor many, many times, both at peer level when I've had colleagues who wanted help. But then as I became more senior in my jobs, I saw new people starting and I mentored them to levels of competency within the jobs I worked in. Aside from that, I've been a mentor to my friends, people who've been undergoing life situations and they've needed help and guidance. Everything from, you know, death and grief and divorce. I've been there for friends and I've mentored them on the journey. And I'm a father. I've taken a new human life from its very beginning point, and through mentoring and guidance, we call it parenting, another word for mentoring, I've grown that individual into somebody who's now ready to stride out into the world and cut his own path. It's the ultimate form of mentoring anyway, in a way. So I said to this young fellow, yes, I can, sir. I am going to be your mentor. And it was a truly enlightening experience for us both, I hope. But along the way, I picked up 5 tips that I'm going to share with you today, which I think you can employ as a potential mentor to somebody who needs your help in life. Now, the first quality that you're going to need in abundance in a mentoring situation is time. You really need to ask yourself the question, do I have the time to be a proper mentor to this individual? Because it can be a very time-consuming experience. Now, it depends on what the mentoring situation will entail. It may be, at the very beginning, you may need to meet up several times to form a bond and to get that mentoring journey underway. Now, that meeting up could be online, virtually, or it could be face-to-face. It depends on the situation which is necessary in your individual situation. You will need certainly to help that person with whatever they want advice with, and that can be time consuming. If it's a professional mentoring situation and that individual wants you to look at their work, you will need to take the time to look through their portfolio. Maybe they're an artist. You need to look at their art so that you can provide critique and advice to them. They may be writing a book and they may want your advice. That would clearly involve reading their manuscript and providing the feedback. These can be very time-consuming situations. So it's really important that you ask yourself the question, do I actually have sufficient time to invest in this scenario to make sure that it's valuable both to the mentee and to me as the mentor? Now, the next thing you have to ask yourself is, Am I the right person for this mentoring scenario? And I think this is perhaps the most important question that you will face as a potential mentor, because it utterly depends on what the goal is of the mentoring situation. Now, for instance, if it's a professional mentoring scenario and this individual is seeking professional advancement, are you at the right level to provide the support, the guidance and advice that the person needs? If you're at a peer level and that individual wants to be a bit higher, you're probably the wrong person. So ask yourself, am I the right person? If it's a life coaching situation, as my scenario was, and the individual is seeking advice to help them with difficult decisions, they're at a hinge point in their life. They could go this way, they could go that way, and they're going to look to you for advice, to draw back on your portfolio of life experience to give them some advice. If you haven't been there, if you have not had that life experience yourself, how on earth can you provide suitable mentoring advice for that individual? You need to ask yourself that situation, because anybody can be a mentor, but getting the relationship right will have a significant impact on the likelihood of success and the outcomes that your mentee is seeking to achieve through the mentoring process. And also for you, because don't forget, never forget, being a mentor is not all about a one-way situation. It's not just about you giving to somebody else. This is a two-way street. As you mentor somebody, you gain back from that person. You see the world from the perspective of somebody else, because that mentee is giving you their feedback also. It enriches you, it rounds you out as an individual, and it makes you a better version of yourself. That's the beauty of mentoring. It's a two-way situation. Now, it's often a good idea when you ask yourself the question, am I the right person? To realize or to think, it's often not a good idea to have a mentor who is a mirror version of yourself, but maybe older or more experienced. It's often far more beneficial to choose a mentor who is totally different, who's got a diverse background, who has a different viewpoint or mindset or philosophy to life. Because if you're just bouncing your ideas off somebody who's very similar to you, you can anticipate getting back the answers or the advice which you could probably imagine yourself. It's far better to choose somebody who's totally different, who can be a foil to you from your viewpoint. That way, you're getting different perspectives as a mentee, and as a mentor, it's important that you can recognize that and identify that in your potential mentoring situation. Now, my next tip for you is have a plan. All right? What you need to do is plan the mentoring journey from the very beginning, based entirely around the goals and objectives of your mentee, so that any advice, any support, anything that you give through that mentoring process is a valuable contribution to those goals and objectives. There is absolutely no point in you just delivering what you think is the right way as a mentor to give advice to this person if it has no bearing on what they want to achieve at all. It's all about making a plan, writing it down in your journal, like I do with my journal. It's a very useful tool in life to put things down in writing so you can see it and you can plan around it. And that way you can also set some very simple expectations around the mentoring relationship. For a start, how often are we going to meet in our mentoring situation? Is it going to be initially we're going to have a few meets, maybe once a week for a month, and then we'll revert to once a month, and after a while once a quarter? It will depend on that mentoring journey and how intense that relationship needs to be. And it depends on how you are going to take that mentoring forward. So, for instance, shall we say, as a mentor, you say to your mentee, right, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to suggest to you a book for you to read, which will give you lots of answers, lots of ideas. It will get your mind thinking. Then your next meeting could be a book club style meeting, where you discuss the book and see what the mentee has drawn from it. It can be one way of taking it forward, but again, it's all part of the expectations. You may be asked to debrief activities which your mentee has undertaken. So, they might have provided a piece of work. As I said, they might be writing a book. They might ask you to read it and provide direct feedback to them. They may even ask you to observe them if the thing that they want help with in that mentoring relationship is something that could be observed. So say they may want to improve their public speaking skills. Once you've given them advice and guidance, you might want to go and watch them delivering some public speaking so that you can then assist afterwards with additional support and advice. So that relationship that you have, when you set those expectations of what you can and you cannot do, it will certainly form the framework of the mentoring going forward. And also, as a mentor, you really need to have an exit plan, because mentoring can't go on forever. Unlike parenting, which is a cradle-to-grave situation, all right? As a mentor, you have to have a way out. And you can set that down in your plan within your expectations. We're going to have this mentoring relationship for 6 months. We're going to meet once a fortnight for the first month, then it's going to be once a month for 6 months, and then we will re-evaluate at that 6-month point. We might then drop back to quarterly, then maybe once a year, or maybe you will be a confidant for that individual as and when they need somebody to come to for advice in perpetuity. A bit like parenting, but in that mentoring way. So this is something which you can write down, and you can make sure you put it into that plan, so you know from both sides of the relationship what journey you're on and what the expectations are. Because the last thing you want to do is become an emotional crutch for this individual forever. You have to have the exit plan, and to have an exit plan, you have to have a plan. Now, the next thing I'm going to tell you is, to be a mentor, you have to be prepared to work, all right? Now, whilst on the face of it, it sounds like, we just meet up once a month and have a chat for half an hour, and I give you the benefit of my life experience. It underplays it entirely. The mentoring process is much more time intensive, and you need to work at it. And some of the qualities that you need to bring to the table are never going to change, whatever the mentoring situation. Firstly, you have to be honest. Honesty is absolutely key to the mentoring process. You need to contribute to that constructive relationship with positivity. You have to be positive. You have to build that relationship and take time to get that bond. You need to be encouraging. This is probably the most important thing that a mentor brings to the table. Whilst you will have to bring critique, encouragement is the ultimate goal here. You have to be patient and supportive. The goal which they're seeking may not be something which is achievable anytime soon. It might take quite an investment, and patience is the key. And supportive patience is what will bring home the goal at the end of the day. You will, without doubt, have to maintain utmost confidentiality. This is a relationship akin to a person and his doctor. The things which are said in a mentoring relationship are not intended for any other ears. Otherwise, you can't invest that within your mentee and the mentor, the truth. It has to be entirely confidential. And another thing, you have to be prepared to share opportunities with your mentee. If you get invited to a networking event where you know you're going to encounter people that may benefit your mentee, you will have the opportunity to perhaps extend that invitation to them, open doors for them. It's all about that constructive, supporting relationship going forwards. But be under no misunderstanding, you will have to work. And finally, my last tip is, you are going to have guts to be a mentor. Because, or perhaps guts is too strong a word. Let me just say, I think you will have to have a good strength of character. Because as a mentor, you're going to have to provide advice which maybe your mentee doesn't want to hear. And there is no point at all being a mentor and not being honest and truthful with the individual. Whilst it is absolutely important to be supportive and encouraging, equally, you are going to have to provide correction and critique in situations where it's going to feel uncomfortable, right? Nobody wants to be able to dash somebody's hopes and dreams, but you will have to sometimes as a mentor, because they may come to you with a piece of work, or you may observe something that they have done, and they may think it's fabulous, it's amazing, I've nailed it. But actually, because of your greater experience, knowledge, or skill, you know inherently what they have done is not satisfactory. It's not good enough. It's not going to provide the outcomes that they seek. You have to have the strength of character to be able to say, I'm sorry, I don't want to dash your dreams, but what we're talking about here is not good enough. But always remember, have a plan. What you've done isn't what might be acceptable, but this is what we can do to improve the situation. The encouragement and the supportiveness comes after that strength of character, where you have to correct and provide advice to get that person back on track. So having guts is very important. Nobody wants a mentor who's just going to glad hand everything that they do. A mentor is somebody who perhaps provides the uncomfortable truths that you don't want to face up to yourself. So, in conclusion, I would say being a mentor in any walk of life is quite the responsibility. A lot of weight lies upon your shoulders. You are helping somebody, you're giving them advice, you're forming the future for an individual who has come to you for help. It is a huge opportunity to shape the next generation. But it's also a huge opportunity for you to see the world through the eyes of another person who maybe has different life experiences to you. It's an enriching and illuminating scenario for you as the mentor as well. Whether you've benefited from being a mentee to somebody in your past, but this is your chance to learn and to help shape the future. I would encourage anybody to consider being a mentor. Maybe you see somebody in your orbit of influence who may require the support of a mentor, but they may be too or intimidated to ask you for that support. Why not volunteer it? Why not offer it? You never know what the outcome may be. It is a win-win situation for both the mentee and the mentor. Certainly been my experience to date. So there we go. I hope you've enjoyed this back to basics on becoming a mentor. If you have, give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, click the subscribe button. If you'd like to support the channel, you can drop me a comment, you can leave me an email, you could buy me a coffee, which is a one-off thing, or you can even become a Patreon. And a patron for £3 a month gets additional video content from me and the opportunity to ask me questions on a face-to-face, one-by-one basis. So until the next time, take care, and I'll see you again very soon.